you may have guessed, I have kind of an interest in these types of things. We're going to talk today about Node.js and sockets, but specifically WebSockets. You might have seen some of these terms fly by in the networking courses and such, but these are slightly different. But I think they're, well, yeah, well, we'll see. I'm not going to spoil anything yet. These are slightly different in execution, and they have a different type of use case. But yeah, in the end, it's pretty similar and it's pretty different. We'll see. We'll see. I'll I'm just going to scroll through this because I'm a professional. We'll be talking about, first of all, setting up your own web/file server. This is something that you'll be using if you're ever going to make a website as well. And if you have to make your own server, for example, if you're not hosting a PHP server or whatever, you probably be using Node.js, which is the one that I've been using for all my web projects in the last 8 or so years. And within that same Node.js instance, we'll also be creating a multi-user / multiplayer environment. You'll pretty quickly see that it's pretty much the same thing. We're going to be setting up communication between browser windows via WebSockets, which means that, well, first of all, it's going to be mostly on the same computer. But in theory, you'll be able to open the website from anywhere within your network, or if you've set up your router so that you open up some ports, you can technically access it from anywhere in the world if you know your IP address, and they should all be communicating with each other. First, we're going to build a simple chat application, basically, well, very simple chat application, and I'm sure you can think of a bunch of extra stuff that you'll be able to add. And next lecture, tomorrow's one, will be building that chat application into a multiplayer application. And you'll see that there's quite a bit of overlap between a simple client and an actual multiplayer environment. I'll also be introducing Phaser, which is this something some of you have experience with already? Because I'm not going to go into it too deep today, but it's a JavaScript-based WebGL rendering game framework specifically. It's actually pretty big in certain specific circles. It's world famous in the realm of Facebook games, for example. It's also an .io extension, but I'll link it here so you can have a look later. But it borrows a lot from how Flash used to work, which might look familiar because the GXP engine also borrows a lot from how Flash uses to work. So yeah, we'll see that. I'll give a basic introduction into that. I won't go into it too much because that's not the point. But yeah, it's actually very nice. And it's also one of the only things that I know of that you can use to make actual good pixel art games together with Game Maker, like actual one-on-one resolution. So I think it's very nice. And yeah, basic Phaser functionality and code structures. What I won't be going over too much is, well, adding server-side cheat detection. I'll tell you how you could do it, but it's up to you to figure out like how to implement it. It's very game specific. Storage, for example, you can actually, like, in maybe 10 lines of code, add like a database structure behind it, and your chat application suddenly becomes like a clone of Telegram, but or WhatsApp for that matter. But not going to go over that too much because it's not the point of this lecture. Also, not too much gameplay. The functionality will be there, and I'll show you how to expand on it later on. But that's not the point. Again, same with the in-depth Phaser functionality. What we'll be making tomorrow is Bomberman. Yeah, I get it, because it's multiplayer. And we're going to be making a multiplayer Bomberman type game. And, well, I might be old, but I think Bomberman is still like something people know of, right? Right? I used to play it on the Super Nintendo and on the PlayStation, and like, yeah, it was basically everywhere. Such a simple concept, but it works so well. Yeah, we'll be making a multiplayer version of that you can play in your browser with multiple people. So if everybody has a phone, technically you'll be able to play it together. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a very fun type game. All right, right. So this is not going to be much of a lecture type lecture. I'm going to be setting up these things from scratch, and yeah, you can follow along with me. I'll be explaining what I'll be doing most of the time. What was it again? Usually I work on a Mac, but Windows has a nice thing as well. PowerShell, which is basically Ubuntu, I think, with this still. So yeah, I'm gonna go through this step by step. If I lose you, just let me know. I'll try to talk through everything I'll be doing. The steps individually are usually quite simple if you know what you're doing, which I assume you don't yet, because this is something completely new for you. So I don't mind if people ask questions and such about these things. Let me just grab my example here. So I posted a message yesterday about some prerequisites. If you want to follow along with this, you can. You don't have to because it'll be recorded, so you can check it out later if you like. Yeah, I'll be using the PowerShell, but you can actually use the normal terminal as well, I think. If you read my email yesterday, I asked you to install NodeJS, and which will also install npm, which is the Node Package Manager, which to the people that did C++ is similar to Chocolatey, and it helps you install libraries required to run certain applications and such. WebStorm is taking its time, and npm should be installed. Yep, npm version. You can check if everything is installed by just checking the version of certain things. npm and Node are both installed, so that's good. That's what I was hoping for. Actually, we don't even need the... Is this readable, by the way, before I continue? Because I can lower my resolution a little bit, if need be, because I think it's on 1440p right now. Not very readable. Well, it's on 240 hertz, and I guess I'll scale it down to a measly 1080, 60 hertz.
Hey, Ron, you could also try to make the terminal to have a bigger font, right?
Yeah, true. I think so. Control plus probably.
I think you have to right-click on the top.
Oh, I can control scroll as well.
Oh, cool.
That's good. But I mean, that won't work with WebStorm later on. But so now it's 1080. Maybe that's more readable.
And then you can also use the magnifying glass. That's already between.
Oh yeah, true. You guys can zoom in. Lucky.
No, you can zoom in. You give
the no, but I mean, like, I think you guys can zoom in on my screen, right?
Yeah.
Tobias, Tobias, you're right. I think you can zoom in as well. Like, at least you can make the font bigger.
Yeah. Well, for now it's going fine. Let's see.
Yeah. Right. So this is actually, like, as you may have noticed, this is not a Windows type terminal. I think they use like a bit of Ubuntu. I think they stole a little bit, but you can use Windows commands like dir, but ls like list also works. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new directory on the desktop. I already tried this yesterday, so I can remove that one. Make dir. I'm just going to do this all in terminal, but you can just right-click here and create a new directory as well. But because I'm cool and a hacker, and if you want to, impress the ladies, then you need to do something like this. Make dir fun with sockets. Done. Well, you see it appear here as well. CD, and then if you press tab, it'll autocomplete to whatever options are available. If there's multiple options, you can press tab multiple times. CD into this, and we're going to be creating both the client side, so the HTML part, and the server side, which is the JavaScript only Node.js part. And I like to separate those into two different directories. named aptly client and server. So inside, you'll see that these directories appear. Ah, yes, thanks, even. Yes, CD is change directory, true. So if you want to switch to a different directory, you do CD, and you can do the old path thing, like go one up. Yeah, navigate around. Tab will autocomplete to stuff. ls is list the files in the folder that you're currently in. Make mkdir, yeah, make a directory. True. These are all Linux type commands, I think. I think Windows usually have different stuff. But whatevs. Yeah, Unix, you're right. I keep saying Linux. But it is actually Unix, yeah. They started it. So I'm going to change into the server directory, and now I'm going to start with some basic Node functionality. And this is something that you'll be going through a lot if you're going to be doing a lot of Node.js stuff. And it's actually quite simple. You say npm init, and it's not British for it's a Node package manager init. No, it just means like initialize this directory as a Node.js environment. It'll ask you a bunch of questions. What do you want to name the package? Well, it automatically defaults to the server, which is the name of the directory. Actually, that's not what I want to call it. I want to call it fun with sockets server. This is just the name of the application, not the name of the directory or whatever. The version, description. You can fill these all out. Entry point index.js. All these things you can fill in. You don't have to. Keywords, author, license. No. For this, it's not important. If you ever want to host your package somewhere, then yeah, you need to kind of make these things up. But for now, it doesn't matter that much. All it does is create a package.json. And if you open this with any simple text editor, you'll see that this stuff it just output is right there. And that's all it does. It creates a package.json. But this is actually kind of an important file because this will keep track of all the dependencies that you want to use for your project. For example, we're going to be using sockets later on. And yeah, so this file is what makes it a Node.js server type environment. After you've done that, you can usually do npm install, which will install all the dependencies, but there are no dependencies. So all it does is create a lock so that it doesn't, so that you don't accidentally update your package file while working on it or something. Doesn't matter much, but for now, this doesn't do anything because we haven't added any dependencies yet, which we will do. Why not? So for the if you want to add a dependency, you can simply do like npm install express. Express is the dependency. npm install means install this dependency. And if you want to save it, you can do -- save, and that will store this in the package.json, which means that if you upload this to Git or whatever, all you have to do is install the files in the package.json, and your server should be able to run. Express.js is the full name. Put a link in there. It's basically a simple middleware. It's a web framework. So it allows you to say like, hey, if you access this port, then do this. If you access this port /server, then go here. You'll see in a bit. It's actually just a very simple middleware type software. Tobias says you can also change them later. Yeah, true. You can change whatever you like in this file. As long as you don't mess up the code format, it should be fine. So if I do this, enter. Oh God, it's breaking. I think Windows doesn't like it when you try to change files when they're open. Yeah, it added version 4.17, whatever. You'll see that the Node modules directory will appear. This is where all the libraries are kept. And you'll see that Express has a bunch of dependencies of its own. And one of these is Express itself. And then all these things it needs to function. There are so many JavaScript libraries, it's insane. if we open the package file now, you'll see that because there's -- safe behind it, it listed express as a dependency right now. Yeah, that's it for this for now. I'm also going to make a simple client. I actually didn't try this yesterday. Let's see if this actually works. Touch, which is not an inappropriate. Touch doesn't work in this environment. I guess I have to do it the old-fashioned way. Touch just means like if the file doesn't exist, create it, and it's just an empty file. Instead, I'll just create an index.html like that. Yeah, true. I could just output nothing to a file.txt. Yeah, I guess touch is basically the same thing. It creates an empty file. From now on, I'll be working in WebStorm. Let me just open this as a project. Boom. Client index.html, which is empty. Node modules empty as well. I'm going to fill this up a little bit with something that we'll be able to see when we're trying out our server. You know, the very minimalist, the very basic stuff that we need in an HTML file. Title, fun. It doesn't matter much. These are all the minimal requirements. Body, just an H1 tag that, hey, it is working. And nothing else. Yeah, this is basically all we need for now. So this is just an HTML file, and I think you can actually like run it locally. I don't know if this actually, yeah, it opens the file locally. You can see this is the website so far. Not super spectacular. However, if you open this in Firefox or Chrome or whatever, what it does is it's a local version of it, just the HTML. But we actually want to create our own server so that if we run the server, then it will be able to display our files and add some functionality to them later on as well. So don't crash, please. Right. So this index.js that I just created, this is going to be our entire server. And the .js might give something away that it's just JavaScript, and it's all just pure JavaScript. And I think this is one of the benefits of working with Node.js as an environment for websites or whatever, because front-end and back-end, the only programming language you'll be using is JavaScript. If you're targeting relatively recent modern browsers, like the last 2 or 4 years, the language is exactly the same, and you can use the same modifiers and stuff. People like to bitch and nag on JavaScript for it not being consistent, and they're kind of right. Well, it's actually very consistent, just the rules are weird. But it's very consistent within those rules. However, they have been addressing a bunch of those things lately. Like you used to have var, but that has, if you want to declare any variable, var body is just like an empty set, for example. Exactly, it's very consistent in consistency, so you know exactly what you can expect. But var has been replaced by let. Basically, they technically have slightly different functionality, but not super important for now. And they also introduced another one called const, which does the same thing as in C++. And for example, it doesn't allow you to change the thing that you are declaring. It's still type loose, which I think is a benefit in these types of environments. Which means, like, I'm sure you guys know, but for example, C# is not type loose, even though it tries to be with the auto and the vars and stuff. But this means that I can say, like, body right here is an object, and then I can say, hey, actually, body is a string. Hey, actually, body is a number. And JavaScript doesn't care. So it's fine. You can just redeclare variables as whatever you like. And this is also how you import stuff. So if I want to import Express, I can just do Express is require Express. That's it. Now I have included the Node.js library Express, this one, the one that we actually installed. And there's a default library in here as well. It's called HTTP, which, well, guess what it does? It includes the HTTP protocol. There's several of these, but we'll be using the default one for simplicity's sake. Oh, by the way, is this readable? I can probably zoom in. Maybe. Nope. Oh, it doesn't work. Shift, Control Shift. Also nothing. Zen mode. Well, this is actually something I'll be checking out later, but appearance, presentation. On Mac, I can press Command and plus to zoom in. Here? Oh, oops. Oh God, it zooms in my entire screen. I don't want that. No, I just want to zoom in on this. Hey, maybe I'm blind. I can't see it. All right, I'll just check. No, I have to change the font. All right. Might as well. Is this better? Oh God, this is everything. Except for the fucking editor. Ah. Yeah, Control Scroll doesn't work. No, for some reason. Oh, you can put it in presentation mode. Maybe I should try that. All right. Well, not super useful because I need to navigate, but it's good for now, I guess. Oh God, it changed my other my other WebStorm window as well. Oh, whatever. Oh, if actually, can I just open the? No, I can't. Crap. All right, I'm not going to spend too much time on this anymore, but. I did it yesterday, and I have no idea how I did it. Control plus, Shift plus, no. Shift zoom, scroll zoom, nothing. Whatever. I think you have to enable
Edmond, have
control
you been to
settings.
the file settings to see if anything there with the font size is there? A text editor?
Notepad plus equals notepad minus.
Yeah, in the editor.
Document Control Shift A. Type increase
Yeah.
font type. Okay. Editor action, decrease font size, increase font size. Ah, they're not bound here.
Ah, okay.
Well, that explains something. I guess. I'll just add one. What's a good one? Control Shift. Oh
Plus.
wait. Yeah, exactly. But Control Shift plus, I can't. Already assigned to code folding. Too bad. Yeah, remove that one because I won't be using that anyway. And Control Shift minus. No? You can't? Okay, you can. Good. Cool. Yeah, we'll get there. There we go. And it's as easy as that. This easy as 1, 2, 3. I don't know why it's not assigned by default to something. Anyway. Better, right? All right, while we're at it. We'll be creating an app. That's usually the common nomenclature we'll be using. We'll define the port that the application will be running on. I like to use, well, you have to use something above 2024, but very common ones are 3000. 8080 is also one because by default it runs on 80. So 8080 is kind of, actually, I'll be using that. It's pretty common. And we'll create a new app by calling express as a function, and that's it. Now our app is basically an express environment. We'll create the server by saying that, hey, this app is actually an HTTP server, like this. Basically saying like the middleware will run in an HTTP type environment. Doesn't matter too much what it actually does right here, but server.listen on the ports, and then a callback so that we know that it's running. By the way, this is actually a thing in JavaScript. This is a function, a nameless function. This is a nameless function. Well, there's like 2 more. But do you guys know the difference? No, this is a function. This is a named function. But this is called arrow notation. And it has a very, excuse me, it has a very specific type of usage. It's different from this type of function. It actually makes a lot of difference in quite a bit of JavaScript environments, and they kind of introduced this arrow type notation because, well, JavaScript was evolving in a certain type of direction. I'll just spoil it for you. A function that is declared like this, and you can also give variables a and b, for example. Then you can console.log a and b here, for example. This type of function, which now does nothing because it's just an anonymous function and you can't call it. So, but if you do it like this, you can actually call it. No, it just executes. I know this looks weird, but an arrow notation type function contains the context, and that's actually what it's called, of the caller of this function. So that means that in JavaScript, they like to use this in a very specific way. And in this case, this is set to whatever is calling this function, or whatever this is at the moment of the definition of this function, which is exactly the same how C# does it, for example, which is something that you kind of expect. Otherwise, a normal function like this, a, b, does not do that. That this is actually this function, not this entire environment, for example, in this case. We'll refer to this specific function, which is often not what you want. Not always, but often. In this case, actually, this is not required because the context doesn't matter, because we won't be listening it. We won't be doing anything. We will just say the server is listening. and nothing else. And actually, I like to use single quotes because they are slightly faster, but not really at all. Yeah. So yeah, this creates a server that listens on port 8080, and it doesn't do anything. So you can try to connect to it, but it doesn't know what to do yet. So we also have to give it something to do. And you do that by telling Express like, hey, use something. And the easiest way to do is just like use /, which means like accessing the website at its root. So if you go to your local host on port 8080, this is what should happen. Like this is the one that should open. And in this case, we're just going to be giving back a static version of the website, which I like to do it like this, like get the current directory name, very similar to Python. Go one up. I think I need a trailing slash. And then go to the client. So basically what we're saying is if we open this server, go up one directory, then go into client, and whatever is in there, just poop it out. And browsers are clever enough to know that if there is index.html or .php or whatever, that it needs to display that. It will automatically do that. We could say here, like, just display index.html, but then it will only display the index.html. And later on, when we'll be adding images and stuff, they won't actually be able to access them because Express will only show the index.html and the rest will be locked off. And this is it. Now, if I want to run this, do I have a node environment in this terminal? I do, an older one, but that's fine. I can just go to the server environment, change directory server, and do node index.js, and it will start running. You'll say server is listening. So if I open a browser here and I go to, I like to use private windows for a lot of reasons, but in this case, because it doesn't have any of the cookies and stuff, and it doesn't try to load in other older stuff. Localhost 8080. Yep, you'll just see yeah, you can connect to it as if it were a website. And I don't know what my local IP address is actually. Can you easily see that in Windows? I think you can, right? Don't disconnect my network. Oh yeah, of course, I have a terminal open. I can just do ipconfig. This one. If you have the correct ports open, that means, and you have your mobile phone, for example, on the same network, you can just go to 192 in my case. You can just go to this local IP address, 168.50.61.80.80. And well, I don't know if you guys can see my screen, but it is working. Yeah, you can actually connect to it as well. Which will come in handy later if you want to have like test if it works over multiple things. All right, basic setup done. Exactly, yes. Now that you know my internal IP address, I'm sure you can you can easily take over my computer. I mean, I have so much like what's it called? Smart house type stuff that I'm probably like, you can probably hack my network. Even though I switched it to what's it called, a basic no, was it like, I have a separate network for most of my smart stuff, but still still should be easily hackable. Exactly, turn my fridge evil. I have a Roomba that's probably hackable. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna dox myself. Right, I'm gonna leave the server part for now, and we're gonna switch over to the web part. I mean, I can leave the server running because it's just it's in the background. Doesn't really do anything special right now. But it does allow me to view the changes that I'll be making. Gonna change the title to Chatter the Chat, which is this thing right here. Yeah, if you refresh it, you'll see that it'll update completely. We're going to be using jQuery for this and nothing else. I'm not a big fan of jQuery, but it does take away a lot of the hassle. And I like to include jQuery from a CDN, in this case, just from a Google API, instead of hosting it locally, especially if I know we'll be getting rid of it at some point in the future anyway. So by doing it like this, if you inspect here, it's already included probably. If you do this, yeah, you can already see like there's jQuery for you. So nothing special, just include the entire Google API. I can post the link indeed. By the way, if you want to include stuff from somewhere else, it's usually a good idea to check if it's actually that's what you're trying to include instead of just, you know, including something in your web page that you're not 100% sure is it's what it is. Second, I'll be introducing something that will save you guys a lot of headache, and you can thank me later if you're ever going to make a website. If you're familiar with Bootstrap, that is quite nice actually, but I'm a big fan of Semantic UI, which is simpler in some ways in usage, and it's way more aimed at mobile development and stuff. I'll show you what it is. It also includes like a bunch of just stuff, elements that look very nice and very professional, like simple buttons, but also buttons with like, and this is all just CSS. There's no functionality attached to this, but this is what I'll be using to create the basic client. And all you have to do is add classes to certain things. So if you remember from web dev, adding classes is usually not a problem. It's actually quite easy to do. So for example, I saw some, I think it was called comments. Oh yeah, this one. Like there's a few comments, and these are all like basically how Facebook does it, or Twitter or whatever. Like this is all simple. Where'd the source code appear? Oh, here it is. Yeah, you can just see like you put UI in the class and then comments, and then all you have to do, it's called semantic UI because you're basically explaining to the class what it should look like. So a dividing header, content, avatar, author, like all this stuff is all super simple, and it will automatically be styled correctly. And if you want to include that, put this link in the top. And I'll do it right now as well. That'll include the CSS. There's also a bunch of JavaScript functionality, but I won't be using that. And you can already see like, oh, this is already better. Like the font, it includes a default font that is quite nice and stuff. And we'll be using the basic setup. Their website has a nice overview of all the stuff that they have. First off, I'm going to put everything in a UI container, which just means that it scales with the screen a little bit, but it contains it to the middle if it becomes too big. And well, I'll show you. Why not? Class header, just to see how it looks. Nice. If it's small, like it'll stick to the middle more. It will behave more like a website than just plain HTML. And like we saw earlier, we can just do class UI comments. And within that, what is it called again? Oh yeah, it's actually a very simple class UI comment. Very good name scheme. And within that, you have just content. You can have an author, which will be the username of the person making it. How would you know these class names and behaviors? On the website, I'll link it right now. They also have a React version if you guys want to use React, by the way. On this website, basically this entire website exists to demonstrate that. If you click the little menu on the left, there's all the elements that you can see. And wait, I'll show you right here. Like there's a menu here. These are elements that you can check, and you'll have to go through them once to see what they all have. Usually I've never used any of the modules, but basically everything else I have used at some point. And now I'm going for this one, comments. And here you can see what they will look like if you want to, like if you want it to look like this. These are all the types of different stylings that you can have. And well, these all look kind of similar, but the point is, if you want to see how you should make them, you press the code icon here, and it'll show you like, hey, if you wanted this, you can do small comments. Like if you put small in between UI and comments, all the comments will be smaller. And yeah, this basically shows you how you can make this. A simpler example is a button, which is just a button class UI button in this case. But for example, if you have a slightly more complex button like this, you click the source, it's called a labeled button, and you can basically, hook it together. Accidentally click something. You can also click all these things. UI red button and a UI basic red left pointing label, which is this. Yeah, it becomes kind of complex if you want to make stuff that is not super super common, but still, like you can just copy this and then change the stuff that you like. That's it. Yeah, for example, like I can show it actually. If I were to copy this and paste it somewhere in the container here, save, refresh, that's it. See, it's super easy, and then you can change this to whatever you like, and it will automatically scale and stuff. So super useful if you want to make something that looks professional, even though it's like being prototyped, which is exactly what I'm doing now. All right, whatever. Cool. So the author will be the username, and one more thingy called class is text. This will be the message that we send. I think that's it. So I'm not including an avatar or whatever, but this is just like, yeah, one simple comment. And if you were to copy and paste these many times, you'll see that they'll automatically like show up like this. Super simple. It's like a feed on Facebook with just a username that you can click but doesn't do anything. Now, you guys didn't have my advanced web lectures, so you might not be familiar with how I do things, but I'm going to very quickly. This is necessary anymore. Application JavaScript. I don't think it's necessary anymore, but I like to do it anyway. I'm going to add some simple functionality with jQuery to add like a button that you can use to add a comment, because that's basically what will be happening as soon as we introduce sockets. So for now, the container, I'm going to add a button at the bottom. Why not? Div class is UI button. Like the button doesn't actually have to be a button. It can just be a div because it will be styled like a button anyway. Add a message. Doesn't do anything. Yeah, for now. Now it's just a button. We can even give it a color. Green. It should be green, yeah. I love semantic UI so much. It saves you so much hassle. I think all the colors are supported by default, and it looks so nice. You can say like primary, and you can define what primary colors are. In this case, it's blue. Anyway, green is fine. And inverted. There we go. Look at that. Lovely. And if you press this button, we wanted to do something. Well, because there's only one button, it's actually kind of easy to add functionality to it. With jQuery, you can just do a dot button, and there's only one thing that has the class button. Dot on click. execute this function. So clack, just a quick test. You should see click, 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 click. Yeah, you can see it appear here. So that works. If we click this button, this happens. Now, this is something that I'm doing differently from, for example, Boris. But what I like to do is if there's an element that I'll be reusing, instead of doing this, like find comments and then append, I think, and then you create a div with like all of this in there. You can actually do that. It will automatically escape it and stuff. But I think this, actually, I'm not sure if this works. Yeah, it does. Like it'll add, it just creates this, but I think this is ugly and a hassle and it's not very future-proof, because if we want to like change the layout, we can't really. So why not create one comment, this one, for example, and then we're going to call this one, we add a little class called template, and using this as if it were a template in jQuery. So what we'll do is we'll get the comment template. By the way, it's common for jQuery objects to have a $sign in front of them to show like, hey, this is actually a jQuery object, not just a regular JavaScript object. We'll just find the template, and at the moment we want to append one, we'll just clone it. So yeah, we create a copy of it, and yeah, what this does is basically it like copies this entire object and adds it. That's what a clone is in this case. Cloning has a bunch of other benefits as well. You can find some examples on my GitHub because last year I did the advanced web lectures, and there's a bunch of examples on GitHub that I made for how you can use jQuery more efficiently if you like to do that. What I like to do is create the clone first, like this. Now I have a little clone object, and then I'm just going to find the inside of the clone. I'm going to find the author, which is this part, just looking for the class author, and I'm going to set the text to a cool username. And I'm doing all of this in jQuery right now, just so that we can more easily do this when the sockets get introduced in the next step. So yeah, we'll set the username. We'll set the message. Clone.find. I think it's just .text, yeah. And we'll set the text of that to a lovely message. Yeah. And then we append it like that. See, you can see that by the time it's added, it now has this text and this text attached to it. And you can press it multiple times. Now there's one more thing left. The original template is still visible. And what I usually do is introduce a style of the type CSS. And I just say, hey, everything that has the template class, don't display it. Like that, display none. So yeah, now it's invisible. Oh, but wait, when I press add message, probably if you check the HTML in the inspector, boy, doesn't like being a small window. You can see that there's a bunch of them, but they're all invisible because they still have the template class attached to them. So after we cloned it, we also removed the class template, because we don't want them to be invisible anymore. And the cool thing about jQuery is, and I think they kind of introduced it, is the whole chaining of stuff. So yeah, the clone doesn't have the class attached anymore, so it becomes visible. Secretly, in the comments, there's a template right up here, and that will be copying. But the cool part is, if you want to change something and you want to see what it looks like, you just remove template and say like, actually, I want it. Well, you can make some changes and you can see what it looks like, instead of making changes in some faux HTML. Right. So this is very basically what I go over in the advanced web lectures. Are there any questions so far about this? Because I know this is a lot of information to, have suddenly be pushed on you. Can I format this? Can it auto format? What is it? Control Shift I? No? No. Ooh, oops, don't do that. Because there's some tab inconsistencies. Like that. When did you use jQuery? I missed the start. So, by including this script tag in the beginning, that means that jQuery gets introduced. Actually, I'm only using jQuery right now to save me a bunch of hassle later on. But actually, for the game tomorrow, jQuery won't be needed anymore. And later on in this also, we won't be needing jQuery anymore. I'm just using it right now as a helper. But if you include this script tag, I'll copy it here as well, then jQuery is introduced. And this little $ is basically a shorthand for jQuery. And I think you can also do it like this. Yeah, you can. But yeah, the $ is basically assigned to the jQuery object, because $ can be variables. So yeah, this is where we use jQuery. Like every time you see the little $ in front of a function like this, that's basically just saying, hey, jQuery, find me this class, or yeah, find me this button, find me this. Yeah, that's really it. Yeah, what you also often see is that they'll put the subsequent actions on different, but whatever you're comfortable with, as long as you're consistent. All right. You guys still keeping up? Next part will be introducing the actual sockets and making an actual chat client. So if you guys want like a 5-minute coffee break or something, that's okay with me. But raise your hand if you wanna.
Oh,
Like
we can make a
break.
poll. Let's make a
Oh
poll.
yeah, exactly. Do that. Do a poll. Can you
I'll
do
just
that, Evans?
break.
Oh God, it's 50-50. Ah.
Oh man, it's actually 50-50.
Oh my God! All right.
Look at no. Now it's not 50-50. Okay.
No, it's not 50-50 anymore. All right, so the eyes have it. 5-minute break.
Yeah, I'm gonna have it here.
Is 5 minutes enough? Yeah. Let's say we'll be back here at 10:20. Well, I'll
Yeah.
be here. But
Okay, I'll keep recording anyway. Then we just have one video.
sure. Meanwhile, I'll see if I can figure out how to. Yeah, you guys can grab some coffee or a snack or whatever. And
What's the
let's meet back here at 10:20.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 minutes. All right.
Already.
Grab myself some extra water. What a day. Should probably share some of this water with some of the plants here. Some of them are looking
Yeah, the
not
weather
great.
is asking. Like now we have to be watering them consistently.
Yeah. It's kind of a thing with plants, yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like pretty much the only thing. Maybe feed them every now and again, but yeah.
You have,
Especially
yeah,
if they're in.
you can
Hmm?
give them some plant food also, but we're
Hmm.
starting to get the springtime. Maybe it's a good time to start feeding them again.
True. Yeah. So actually, right now, because this room specifically, this is where most of the sun is in the entire house, and these plants are growing like crazy already. So
Yeah.
they probably think spring has begun like since like 3 weeks, 4 weeks already.
Yeah, because
That's
they're
why I
getting
have all
warm.
these plants here because a lot of these plants were dying, kind of. So I put them here, and now they're thriving, and now I can't just take them away again.
Poor plants. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll make another poll here. Just check if people are back.
Yep.
Very straight to the point. Back.
Somebody answers no. Yeah. Exactly.
But they might be saying no because they're still swallowing the coffee. They're just like,
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. I think cappuccino caramel.
okay, it seems that only Valentin is not back yet. So maybe, no. Yeah, now he is. Okay, everyone's here.
Cool. All right. Um, I just made a little change while you were away. Don't. I changed the everything into a function right here. So add message with a username and a message will do the cloning and stuff for me. Still the same functionality, but just like it's easier if it's just a function. And actually, before I continue, I also wanted to basically make it more like a chat client a little bit. So instead of having a button that just sends a random message, we'll have a small form, which are also automatically styled by with semantic UI. UI action input. You can look these up later if you like. Message is the one that I'm adding to it. One of them is an input, which is just a normal UI text with a nice placeholder. Type in message. I don't know what is. Oh no, yeah, I'll do the Blackboard thing. Say something.
Hey, Rom. Victor is
Yeah,
asking if there are any alternatives to jQuery.
something that does the same. Yes, there are actually a few alternatives, but they're all becoming obsolete. Like there's because all that jQuery is doing, some of them are just nice and easy shorthands. There are some, but like you can just do document dot find by ID or something, get elements by ID, get elements by class name, get elements by name tag name, whatever. And that is basically what jQuery is used for the most. So, and this is built into most modern browsers. Get element by ID, and then you can just give the ID. jQuery still has some like the on click and stuff is easier. You don't have to add an event and whatever. But I wouldn't like jQuery is the most mature one and it's still the most used. There are some alternatives, but they're all dying to because yeah, JavaScript has basically built in. There's I think the one that I saw in a project one was called Cache. I don't know, Cache.js maybe. As in because it's the it's the dollar sign. It does the same thing as jQuery, but it's slightly smaller. but they haven't. Yeah, an absurdly small jQuery alternative for modern browsers. That's what it's called. For example, yeah. For some reason, jQuery is sticking around. And I mean, I'm using it right now because I don't like using the plain JavaScript just yet. And because the performance is negligible but for using jQuery and it's so easy to include. But yeah, there are a bunch of alternatives. None of them are as big as jQuery. Yeah, obviously in a comparison, this basically means that Cache is better than jQuery, but it's probably not actually better than jQuery. It might be smaller, but who cares if something is 10 kilobytes or 8 kilobytes anymore, you know? Yeah, sure. Even this is right. People are advocating for it to stop using jQuery. And in fact, we won't be using it later on anymore. I'm just using it right now for quick prototyping. As you might know from experience or not, you know, oftentimes the prototype becomes the product, like by just changing the name and nothing else. UI button green, nice and pretty. Give it an ID, send message, so we can hook into it later. Type is submit, which means it'll submit the form. Just send, easy. Forgetting something? No. Yeah, now you have a little form here, and it looks like a chat thingy. Press send. Well, it will actually send it, and it will reload the page because you're sending a form, so we have to do something about that. And what we're going to do is actually quite simple. We're going to use jQuery, and we're going to hook into form, and notice there's no dots or hashtag or whatever in front of it. We'll just hook into the element form, and there's only one, so it doesn't matter. And on submit, all we do is return false for now. Let me check that. If you return false on a submit, it will actually stop the page from refreshing, which is nice. So it will stop the form from actually submitting. I can remove this button now. I add, oh yeah, this. I'm just gonna call this message. Oh no, actually I can just do it like this. When we submit the form, or actually when we press enter, the whole reason I'm doing this in a form is because forms automatically submit when you press enter. So I think it's nice. Okay, I can just do it like this instead of just having to click the send button. That's the easiest way to just like listen to basically an event on an enter button. What was I doing? Oh yeah, probably want to get the message text, right? So I'm gonna get the text from the message, which is well, just message. And in jQuery you can do val, which is short for value. Yeah. I don't know why I didn't just call it value. Let's see if this works real quick. Output it to the console. Refresh. Empty string. That's not good. Oh, wait. This is the message. I have to find the only input in there. There we go. That's it. So this is not a message. This is the message. Whatever. We'll just keep it message. It's actually not a good name for it, but whatever. We're developers. It's fine. Nobody will see it. Make this message inputs. So we only have to find this once. We'll get the value. Then, if you do value and you give it something, you can set it to whatever you want. So you can set the internal to nothing again. So that means if you press enter, it will empty it out. Oh, I have to refresh. Very chat-like, eh? Except for, these are not actual messages. And we can just add message here and remove the button on click, with the message being the actual text. Username still just a username for now, like this. Wow, it's like I'm looking at Discord. Right. Now we're actually ready to set up sockets. Right, I'm gonna go over this relatively slow, but stop me if I'm going too fast. Oh wow, this is still way bigger. Maybe I did. Apparently it changes it per thingy. First, what we're gonna do, we can do this in the terminal in here. Where the server is still running, we can stop it by pressing Control C. We can also do it in here actually. Doesn't matter. If we switch to the server, yeah, this is actually the same thing. Like this is a terminal in the server, this is a terminal in the server. But let's stick with what we know. We can now install socket.io and we'll save it. That is, socket.io is a very high level WebSocket implementation, and it's pretty much the norm. I haven't seen anybody use anything else. There are alternatives, but I think socket.io is by far the easiest to use, and I mean negligible differences in speed and such. We don't have to change anything here. The server will still be listening as an HTTP server on port 8080, but what we'll be adding right now is socket.io server support, which is relatively simple. We just added the dependency, and if you check the package, you'll actually see that it's added here as well as a dependency. Oh, by the way, some very nice functionality in WebStorm is that you can scan an npm file, a package file, and it will show you like, hey, you can run these methods from the package. For example, if I open this package right now, it has a test echo test not specified exit 1. So if I run this, it'll just run it and it says like nothing. But if we create a little, we call it start, and all you have to do is say like, hey, execute node.index.js. And now if we refresh it, start will be added. And oh boy, I broke something. Oh, there's something that doesn't need to be there. It will start the server like that instead of doing it in the terminal yourself. You can say order 60. Now let's not go there. Yeah, this makes it easier later on because now it starts as a process, which is easy to start and restart and all those things, which is, yeah, you'll be restarting quite a bit every time you make a change. All right, socket.io is the library. We're going to create an IO, just the default input output, and we're going to attach it to the server. How this works specifically, I'll let you read up on it because I'm not 100% sure what this does. I think it creates I know what it does, but not 100% sure how it does it. But it creates another open port where the WebSockets run on. I think it's 4321 or something, or 443 maybe, like the default socket port, and it attaches it to the currently running server. You can do this before you start the server or after. It doesn't matter. Yeah, what we're going to do is IO. IO is basically all the sockets. For now, this is basically all the sockets that are connected to your server. And you can listen to stuff by using on, and that is something you'll be doing a lot. There are some default ones like connection, which will have a callback with the socket that just connected. And We will output a little something called sockets. Socket has an ID already attached to them. It's randomly generated, and it's guaranteed to be unique, which is also good to know. This means like, yeah, somebody connected to our server. That's basically it. There's a bunch of default ones. But the only ones that we'll be using, and oftentimes the only ones you need, are connection and disconnect. So once the socket is connection, you can attach one to the connected socket at the moment of disconnect by doing like this. On disconnect, it's a callback as well, and you already know which socket is disconnecting, and you just say, well, basically the same thing we do here. Socket disconnected. Yeah, that's it for the server side. So if we start the server now, no errors, server is listening. On the front end side, we don't actually connect to the sockets yet or whatever. By the way, this is just a default shitty thing. Don't worry about this. This is just the icon that shows up in your browser. In order for us front end to connect to the back end, we need to include one more library. What you could do is you could download socket.js and host it locally under a lib file and then include it. Or you can do the same thing again and you just include it via an API, Cloudflare in this case. I'll put the link right here as well. I think this is pretty much it already. Yeah, this is it. You don't have to configure it in this case. I mean, you'll have to start it at some point, but this will just include the socket.io front-end library. And the cool thing about NodeJS and the front-end interfunctionality is that they're often the same file. Like this socket.io.js could be used in front-end and back-end. Because, as some of you might know, Node.js was spawned from Chrome's/WebKit's JavaScript runtime environment. They figured out Chrome is so good at running JavaScript, this was like 8 years ago or something. They're like, maybe we can just extract the JavaScript engine from Chrome and start using that for just JavaScript type applications. That's pretty much what Node is. It's just a runtime environment from Chrome. But it's evolved quite a bit since then, but that's how it started. Yeah, we don't have anything else here. What we are going to do is we're going to create a new. It includes it as IO like this. WebStorm doesn't recognize it because it's from an external file, but believe me, we've now created a socket connection, and by default, it will try to connect to your local host on the same server that you're running. So this should already be enough. Just to be safe, we're also gonna listen to the front end and just say console.log. We are connected. Nothing else, just a little debug message. Right, so if I were to refresh this window on the right, what should happen, and don't shoot me if it doesn't immediately, because sockets are, is the front end will try to connect to the back end. The back end will give us a message like, hey, somebody connected to the front end, so a message will appear here, socket connected, and a message will appear here after it's become connected. So if I refresh this, it says we are connected. Yeah, it worked, first try. And it says here, socket connected. Now, if I refresh this, you'll see that it'll disconnect and reconnect, and it has a different idea. Like you can see, like this one disconnected, and immediately a new one connected. Because yeah, you refresh it, you basically terminate your session, and then immediately reopen a session, but it's not the same session, if that makes sense. So yeah, if you refresh, your connection is gone. You can do stuff to like mitigate that. You can set a cookie on the front end and with the idea so you can reconnect as a certain user stuff. Not going to go over that here, but will it always catch disconnect? I have not found a case yet where it didn't. I even like turned my disconnected my computer, like just pulled the plug, and still the server said, "Oh, disconnect." So yeah, it's pretty fucking good at it. You can mess around with it a little bit, like even if because the browser sends a disconnect. So if you reload it, it'll send a disconnect. If you open it into a new tab, which we can do right here, it'll send a new connect. So now there's two connected, and we can like both disconnect and connect again. And if I close this, it'll send a disconnect immediately as well. Same thing with closing the browser, but apparently the socket knows when the host is terminated, or the client in this case is terminated. It like immediately sends a message like, "Oh, this socket is dead." Yeah. However, there are some things that you can do to like keep looking for it to find if it actually disconnected or not. So there are some ways where they can keep sockets open and DDoS you, which is not something you want. But yeah, that's it. I'm going to keep tracking a variable called isConnected. By default, it's false. And as soon as this happens, it's true. Yeah, that's basically it. And I'm going to, yeah, what am I going to do now? Yeah, I'm going to add a simple functionality to the backend first. For example, now we just we have the socket, we listen to it, but we don't do anything with them. Like they're just floating in RAM, but we actually are not keeping track of them. So what I like to do is create an object, or actually a dictionary or an object. It's very similar in JavaScript. Just called chatters. These are the people that, or you can call them users or sockets or whatever, but chatters sounds nice. And we're going to keep track of the sockets that are being connected. So in this case, chatters, and because the ID is always unique, we can just attach them like this. We can chatters, the socket ID is the socket, so you can easily retrieve them. Or, and this is what we're actually going to do, is we're going to create a little object with, in this case, a username, for example, and that'll be the socket ID. And well, we can attach more stuff to this as well. But the point is that you can keep track of the socket that you're working with and some other stuff that you like to keep track of. So now what we're doing is we're creating an object with just a username, and well, we can add other stuff as is online, false, true, whatever. All stuff that you want to keep track of for your users, or status, or whatever. In this case, just username. Do anything else with this for now? No, let's not. We're gonna, every time somebody connects, we're gonna emit a message. And io.emit sends it to all sockets. So also the one that is connecting right now, this one, and the ones that are already connected, to all sockets. And let's see, I have a little cheat sheet that is not in the PDF. Dang it. I have a little cheat sheet of what emit versus broadcast versus socket.broadcast, and there's literally 20 different types of things that you can do. We're going to emit a little message here on room updated, and what we're going to, all it's going to do is yeah, that's easy. We're going to get the amount of people connected. That's all we're going to send with this, just a number. Like this many people are connected right now. So on room updated sends a number. What I'm doing is I'm getting all the keys from this dictionary, and I'm getting the length of it. So that's basically how many people are connected. You can also just keep track of a counter here. Would be the same thing, 0, and every time somebody connected, you add 1, and every time somebody disconnected, you remove 1. Same thing, actually. So this would be the same. But I like to not keep track of stuff that I don't have to keep track of, if information is implied. So yeah, and when somebody disconnects, we also have to do this, because then it'll be 1 fewer. after we delete it from the chatters. Socket.id. This delete removes an object from, or it removes an entry from an object. In this case, just this one. Yeah. So in the front end, we can now listen to this. We have the unroom updated function or event like this. And when that happens, we get the number of chatters. There's probably a better name for this. Chat room count. I don't know. For now, I'm gonna log it to the console to see if it works. Actually, why not immediately make it visible in the front end? I'll just add a yeah, I'll just add a header here with there are, or just currently span, give it an ID, user count. People here. Doesn't matter. I give it an idea because ideas are easier to find and they're guaranteed to be unique. You can't reuse IDs. Well, you can, but it'll break your website. So where is it? On this one, hashtag means ID. User count dot text number of chatters. That's it. We'll just set the text in the header to that. Refresh this. Currently 0 people here. Makes sense because we haven't restarted the server yet. Selected. Currently 1 people here. Oh yeah, you can see when I restarted the server, it like, oh god, the transport layer is corrupted. Doesn't matter much. If we open another browser and go there, currently 2 people here, and this one will also say currently 2 people here. And yeah, you can keep doing that. And if you disconnect, yeah, currently 1 people here. Right? You can see it's very, very fast. But for you, those of you that have been paying attention in networking, what's the problem with WebSockets for multiplayer or speed in general? While I check my notes real quick. We have 10 minutes left, a little over. Cool, that's perfect. If you guys don't know, WebSockets always use TCP type connection. Package is not arriving in order. Actually, good suggestion, but no, they will actually always arrive in order because it's TCP, not UDP, meaning that the benefits of TCP are like everything is guaranteed to be delivered and stuff and in order, but it's hella slow compared to UDP. Usually for most multiplayer type games, action-based multiplayer type games, they use UDP and then they fudge it a little bit. But no, this is all TCP, and UDP is, as far as I know, not supported. Message boundaries? No, it handles message boundaries. So there are some limits, I think. It might actually already automatically deal with those. Yeah, so it's TCP, which is relatively slow compared to UDP, and yeah, actually not super suited for multiplayer, but as you'll see, it's actually more than fine for small scale stuff. And I mean, all the .io games work pretty well. So, but especially turn-based stuff, that's no problem at all. But action-based stuff, yeah, you have to do some optimizations. I think the IO games, like, they do a bunch of what's it called again? Like divide everything in quadrants, or just make sure that you only get updates from the stuff that is visible on your screen, for example. All right. So the last part of this chat client is actually making it chat. And to do that, we're going to go back to the server. We have room update, etc., etc. And we have to add one more thing. Socket.on on message send message. Basically, we're gonna send a message to the server called onMessageSend, which attaches a bit of text to it called the message, and then we're gonna emit that to everybody else, and we call that onMessageReceived, which means, and this can definitely be optimized, by the way. We're gonna send with the current person checking and the message. So we're gonna send the object to chatter. Actually, because JavaScript is completely what's it called? Scope based. We can just say let's. Oh, actually, we can even make it constant chatter. We can make an object here, attach it to the chatter here. And then this object will still be in scope at this point, so it will still be the correct one on the when we receive a message. Actually, it's pronounced actually. Yeah, so what we're doing is when we're sending a message, we're actually not keeping it local. We're just saying to the server, like, hey, I typed this, and the server will then distribute it to everybody else, including ourselves. So I think this is basically it. Yeah, so I can restart the server. And now I just have to do some front-end stuff. First, I'm going to listen to onMessageReceived, onRoom updated, socket.on onMessageReceived. Yeah, it's probably a better way to name these. Which has the current chatter and the message. The cool part is, like, if I send multiple variables here, it'll call it like a function. So you can have a chatter and a message. You don't have to combine them into one object. It'll just, you'll get them like this, the same way, which I think is very nice. And then we can just do chatter.username, which will be the socket ID, and the message. That's it for that. And now we still have to send it. So when we press enter, here, which adds a message directly, but instead what we'll be doing is we're gonna emit on message send text. Yeah, we're gonna send our text to the server. We're gonna clear the input, and when the server sends it back to us, we'll put it in we'll add it as a message. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Should work. Refresh. Hello. Well, it's pretty fast. Oh, you can see that this is the socket ID of the one that's connected, AAAD at the end. And if I open another window here, 2 people connected. Well, obviously the chat log won't be there, but if I send hello, what is up? Yeah, you'll see that it'll send it to both the connected clients. Cool. And yeah, there you have it. A very simple chat client. And it actually works. So there's a bunch of improvements that you can make here. This is obviously, we're sending it to everybody that's connected. There's no such thing as a chat room. And actually, socket.io supports like rooms, namespacing. Like you can easily group stuff together in a certain room, which is super nice if you want to do, if you want to split stuff up. Now we just send it to everybody that's connected, but for demonstrative purposes, this is fine, I think. Tomorrow we'll be looking more at slightly more complex stuff and sending stuff back only to the people that need it. But for now, this is fine. Socket.io cheat sheet, the emit cheat sheet. We're using 4. It doesn't matter. They're pretty much the same. Sending it to the client that's connected. So socket.emit only sets to the client that's connected. Socket.broadcast.emit sets to all the clients except the one sending it, so you won't get it back. Sending to all the clients in the game room, so you can have, this is basically namespacing or grouping. Oh wow, you can have multiple rooms. I'm not sure if that's still a thing. Yeah, so you can also have namespaces with rooms and then emit. There's a bunch of stuff. Sending with acknowledgements, so then you know when it has been sent. You guys heard about ACKs and NACKs probably, right? At some point. You can send it compressed, yeah, all this stuff. Well, volatile. That might be dropped if the client is not right. No, that's not. I don't think that is UDP. I think that's just the TCP. But yeah. Is there a better one? Socket.io? This is the newer one. Anyway, I'll put a link here as well. And put it in the sheets that I'll upload to Blackboard afterwards. So yeah, we have a whopping 3 minutes left, and so I'd like to say I planned this exactly, but I'd be lying. Anyway, are there any questions? I know this is a lot of stuff to cover because we created a server from scratch in Node, which is something you might have not heard of before. Then added sockets, added a front end, added semantic UI, which is, it makes it look way better, by the way. So I'm happy we did that. I just want to spread the good word of semantic UI. And tomorrow we'll be dropping both jQuery and semantic UI because we won't be needing it because we'll be rendering in WebGL. But yeah, don't matter. That doesn't matter for now. What does that mean? Using a Windows machine like a Mac user. I mean, I am obviously a Mac user, and I'm just on Windows now because it's easier to stream. But yeah. Oh man.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah, good point. Like on my Mac, I usually have like the code in one window, the browser in another, like a different space. You can easily switch between desktops. Not here. Precise window. Oh my God, yeah, I am using it like a Mac user. I guess that's somewhat of an insult, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, actually saw it. So yeah, feel free to ask questions. I can stick around for a little bit, but
Yeah,
tomorrow we'll be going into the
I
nitty-gritty.
if I should stop recording or not. Let's see. It seems that at least one question.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh no, it's not.
Oh no,
Usually
no,
when I do the
it was
questions
answered.
and then people say like, yes, like it's fine.
Sure.
It's fine.
All right.
Like I think I can stop recording now.